these guiding principles of you want it to be in a small set of places that you can feel good on, that you can keep your eyes on, so that the next generation of the four of you who don't have your institutional knowledge are like, I am so overwhelmed by all of this stuff because, I have to compete with like 16 different players from in 16 different categories and stuff. So.
Now, in the examples you gave, like just even looking at Bud Light and Sweethearts, their plan to get to where they wanted to go seems very simplistic right now. How much work do you think they put into coming up with that? So what I will tell you is, like from a Hidden Valley standpoint, what we're thinking of is, eventually we want to own that flavor from a seasoning standpoint. A lot of consumers now think of Hidden Valley as the liquid form in the bottle, the salad dressing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard for consumers to jump to, oh, well, Hidden Valley as a seasoning on a chip, I'm not really sure about that. And then therefore it's not really adding the premiumness that we would want from that.
Yeah.
I guess there's a couple of questions in there. One might be, does that end state feel too broad to you? Or, what work have you done with companies to really refine and be clear about what that end state is?
Yeah. So I would say, I don't know if this is helpful for you, but those two examples are at polar opposite extremes of how much work went into it and stuff. So, like the AB stuff, like basically we got brought in, this is when I was a senior partner at Cambridge, we got brought in by the board because of the light beer wars that had taken its toll, and it was pretty much a mandate from the top to figure out how to revamp the whole business model, because what they were doing of, great taste, less filling, and more advertising with, wasn't working for them anymore, right? And so the Bud Light Lime-A-Rita strategy and the end state to get, it was a whole kit and caboodle, and, I was leading a massive team there, and it cost them a lot of money to get the work done there. Now, you could have said very easily, like figuring out the end state was not hard, right? Because it was like, I have a 50 share in beer in the U.S. I can go abroad, which they've really been slow on global M&A, and that's what ultimately did them in. Or I could move into new categories, right? And so they were kind of percolating. I would say the massive amount of work that was done was to make them feel confident about, did they do this correctly and in the right way and stuff. And it worked really well until they got, the family soap opera that ended up with the third, August Bush the third, kind of voting no confidence in his son and saying, okay, Brazilians can have the company. So, Sweethearts was part of a larger portfolio strategy and business model work that I was leading there at Nestle. But I would say for them, it was actually Nestle is a legacy milk chocolate company. So, and they have, despite the fact that sugar was actually a very good business, it was always the ugly stepchild in there and stuff. And so, so the emphasis was on other parts of the business. But I would say that the calculus was pretty short and sweet to say, it was a very kind of rational thing that was like, you are subscale, you need more money for marketing, and you are in the wrong forms, and these are the forms that are growing. Luckily, the flavor profile fits. The brand personality can work across all of them, because they had this whole brand positioning on misfit. So I was like, hey, that's perfect. You can go and break all the rules of what you're not supposed to do within the confection category and just go everywhere, right? And so that was actually a much more straightforward process. I think for what you were trying to get to of, I would say there's a little bit of, so actually, I don't know if this is a helpful thing, but the whole Clay Christensen jobs theory idea?
Yeah, we use it quite a bit.
Yeah, great. So I've long talked about that the theory works great, and people use it by and large for consumers and maybe shoppers, but that there's also a job to be done for the corporation. and